But first, the energy madness that's set to send us broke and back to the dark ages literally continues. Today, the Federal Energy Minister Chris Bowen announced a new government program to increase the bankrolling by taxpayers of new renewable energy projects from 6 gigawatts to 32 gigawatts, or about roughly half the total generation capacity in the national energy market. Chris Bowen, the brains trust who came up with the tax policies to kill off investment properties and superannuation, who was also the bloke who holds the dubious record under Julia Gillard for the most illegal boats on his watch as Immigration Minister. Well, he's the bloke now in charge of our energy security. Naturally, Bowen's announcement today is completely uncosted. That's right, it's uncosted because the government insists that all these new investments are economic. Economic, despite the fact they're currently not happening because no private investor is prepared to take the economic risk. And very conveniently, the government says that any of the potential costs, they can't be revealed because it says that might distort the market. Now, I've got to ask, what market? This is an energy system that's been bastardised by government green interventions for years. A system, I might add, that worked perfectly well prior to the advent of our emissions obsession, but a system that's now on the verge of breaking down, even though 24/7 power is the absolute foundation of all modern life. And equally naturally, Labor has excluded gas-fired power from this new scheme, even though it's the only reliable way to firm, intermittent, inherently unreliable wind and solar. And that's because we use gas peakers that can then power up and down as needed almost instantaneously. Now, listening to Bowen today, there's only one certainty here. And that's the further we go down the renewable power route, the more expensive power will become due to the simple fact that we need power all the time, not just when nature wants to give it to us. And this is the fact to which Minister Bowen and all the renewable zealots are willfully blind. Here's the Minister on Radio National today, blathering on about this all costing very little.
And what happens to bills? Will this investment have an impact on how much we pay for our power?
Certainly no negative impact, PK, because the Commonwealth is underwriting it. So that's the case. But it is the case, though, that over time, the more renewables you have in the system, the more downward pressure that puts on bills, because renewable energy is the cheapest form of energy.
Government's underwriting it as if the government isn't your money. I mean, get this into your head, Minister. It's only cheap when the wind blows and the sun shines. We need power all the time. That's why the more renewables we have, the more expensive our power gets. Even the business groups, which for so long have played along with climate catastrophism and bent their knee at the altar of so-called energy transition, well, they're now deeply worried that government policy is sending us over a cliff. The Minerals Council Chief, Tanya Constable, is now expressing deep scepticism about whether this transition is even possible, let alone happening. It's calling on governments to, quote, reconsider the urgency to remove coal generation. Now, let's leave the last word, at least now, to Jenny George, former ACTU President and Labor MP, who had a powerful letter published in yesterday's Australian newspaper. Her verdict on Labor's energy policy is, and I quote, "It's all politics and virtue signalling driving the agenda. Rhetoric," she said, "continues to trump reality." I tell you what, if only Jenny George was still in the Parliament.